Hi everyone, Tom here, and I'm joined by Don today because he got to play Pokemon TCG Pocket at Gamescom, and this is for the preview embargo. This game's coming out October 30th.
Yes.
But Don, first off, what is Pokemon TCG Pocket?
So, Pokemon TCG Pocket is, well, Pokemon's next mobile game, but it's being developed, and this is very crucial, by Creatures, which make the actual Pokemon TCG itself. Obviously, they've also worked on Detective Pikachu, and they've done other stuff in the past when it comes to their creative endeavors. But mostly, and most importantly, of course, they are responsible for the main TCG, so getting the artist, making cards, creating the cards, making the abilities. And they have now decided to team up DNA, of previously Nintendo fame, funny enough, to now make I would call it more a Marvel Snap version of the Pokemon TCG.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. It's like, is that the main way how it differs from the actual Pokemon trading card game?
I would say so. I think there's also a bunch of other differences. I think first and foremost, it's not a full-scale battle like you would in a regular card game, because a regular card game has, well, every card size is different in every single TCG, but when it comes to Pokemon, usually decks are 60 cards. The limit here is 20. It's a considerable smaller game where it goes a lot quicker, but they also changed up the rules like a little bit. For example, one of the main staples in TCG is that they carry over like the weaknesses that you will see in the video game. For example, fire is strong against grass. So in the regular TCG, your damage would be X2. What they're doing here is they removed that altogether and made it plus 20, which basically means that it only stacks a little bit more damage on top of it, but it doesn't give you the double damage that you would expect from a regular card game.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it's already very different because they don't want to make cards overly strong. Like, there are not as many overly strong cards in this version of the game. Like, there are ways that you can build up that damage and make sure that you can win, but it isn't as overwhelmingly strong as like something in a physical card game, where once you know the advantage and know where your duel is going, you can basically take over. It's a bit more balanced in that regard, weirdly enough.
Yeah, it sounds that way. It sounds like it gives people a chance to make a comeback.
I need to also clarify here. In addition to, say, the changes into weaknesses, it's also no necessarily longer about prizes. So in regular TCG, for every time you win a battle, you get an additional card in your hand, which is basically your prize. Here it's, you only have 3 points. 2 if you beat like a very strong Pokemon, which is called an EX Pokemon for people who don't know. And then a regular Pokemon is still 1 point. So you have a very small bench. Normally you would have like a full team of 6, like in the video game. Here you can only have 1 active Pokemon that you can attack with, and 3 Pokemon that are on your bench. So it's a very slimmed down, more focused version of the game in many respects.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot faster than the regular card game. Now, you were saying Marvel Snap. Would anyone who played Marvel Snap be able to like pick this one up super easily, or
I mean, there are a few less rules. Like in the few things that I already explained so far, there's a bit less focus on the majority of the main rules. Like, they deviate from what was there before. And I think that's the most important thing, right? It's not as straightforward as it used to be. There's a little more strategy involved, but it's also a bit quicker because the Pokemon are not as strong as they used to be. Another thing where it significantly changes is that, unlike the regular TCG where you have to have specific cards to your hand, and one of those specific cards is called energy cards. So you attach an energy card to a Pokemon, which makes them stronger. In your entire deck, there is no energy cards anymore. Every turn, like, there is a thing in the corner that populates an energy card for you, or an energy in this case, which you can put on a Pokemon like a counter, and that's it. you don't have to deal with that anymore. All of your cards in your deck are currently just item cards and Pokemon.
Well, that sounds like, kind of a quicker experience. Now, back to this, like, normally for new Pokemon cards, they're released every few months. How will cards be distributed for this one?
So the only thing they've told us so far is that they're gonna make their own timetable, similar to how they do regular Pokemon cards. And I expect it so, because once again, this is made by Creatures, and they kind of have that unlock on how they expand their TCG. So the first one is called Apex. What is it? Genetic Apex is what the first expansion is called. The cards even have a little stamp on them where they say A1, which is the first set. There's over 200 cards in this first set, so a pretty reasonable amount. It's similar to, say, what an English expansion of the TCG would look like. And I think they're also sort of following that format where they have a certain amount of threshold of cards which change up the game a little bit, and then they move on to whatever is next. And I think that's the way to do or handle this, because it also gives like players ample of time to see most of the cards. Because like a very important element here is, if you don't want to spend any money, that's fine, but you get 2 packs every single day, 2 free packs. Every 12 hours you get a new pack. And there are ways to speed it up, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But you need enough time also for people to just see most of the regular cards in a set. And if you don't want to spend money, it will take quite a while to really get there.
But Don, how will the Pokemon Company ever survive if we don't get them money?
I mean, we will get into monetization a little bit later, I'm sure. But there are ways for them to make money. Don't get me wrong. There are hurdles to this game, and we'll get to those.
Well, I appreciate that it's not a requirement. But with these cards, are they mostly new? Or are they coming back from previous iterations? I mean, like, and how strong are these cards?
I would say, so in my presentation that they gave to me as a pitch, they would say that there's a good mixture of nostalgia and modern cards, or new cards, as they would like to prefer to call them. The majority I've seen for the demo that I've had were new cards. There are a few nostalgia cards thrown in. There are a few like item cards that are very big staples from a few generations ago. But there's also, I would say, a lot of new ones. Like, there are Pokemon that are a similar vein released in the TCG, but they have less HP, their attacks are a bit less stronger. They are, in principle, completely new cards. For the majority of things that I've seen for my demo time with the game, it seems that they're going with a new card approach where even maybe if the artwork is sort of similar, everything about that card is significantly different.
Yeah. That makes sense for an easier way to do it, really. I mean, It's easier to change text than to make new art. Now, in TCG Pocket, is the focus more on trading and collecting or playing?
I would say both. It's a nice mixture of both. Obviously, that's also true of the actual TCG. It's a collectible card game. Here, obviously, you don't have binders full of Pokemon cards like I have in this freaking office. It is a digital collection, first and foremost. So they have put digital binders in there where you can create your own collections of cards. You have your own like sort of Pokédex feature where you can go for all the cards that you've collected. You can also have little display pieces and put Pokemon in specific backgrounds. They're making this also intriguing to collect all the cards because there are missions tied to it. So if you get a certain amount of cards, or you get cards of a certain type, or cards of Pokemon that you would find in a specific area out in the games, they are tied in that specific manner to the things that you would complete in the game. There is obviously also a battle element to it that you also get missions for, but there's a good chunk of the missions that are simply tied to collecting the cards instead of battling. So in total, you could go just more for a collection's sake and trade with people that you find locally with both your mobile device. But there is far more like a balance to it than you might believe. If you look at the trailer that they've released, you would think far more that this would be a few beautiful cards, but mostly still quick battles. I think the answer is a bit more in between, where yes, there is a lot of focus on the battles, and the battle system is very quick, and it is very much like a mobile card game. But at the same time, they also focus a whole lot more on actually collecting the cards and making sure that those cards look good in a collection.
Yeah, the battling was the impression I got from the trailer, but I guess, collecting might not be as exciting in a trailer situation, so
for sure
I can understand that. And so with all these pre-made decks, like, are you forced to use them, or can you experiment them and mix them up with your own solutions, or like how do they restrict that?
So when you first play the game, and this is interesting, and this is where sort of monetization sort of comes into the picture. The first number of days, if you solely go for the free packs, you will not have enough cards to start playing or battling in the game. Straight up. They restrict you until you have a certain threshold of the cards. I don't know that threshold from the top of my head, unfortunately. But we got sort of sped through the process a little bit, so it's skewed a little bit in our favor in that particular way. So until you have a certain threshold of cards, so you open the booster packs daily and collect about, I would say about maybe 20 or 30 like original cards in that game, then you get the ability to battle. Even then, you don't have enough cards to really make your own decks, because you might lack certain cards here or there. So what immediately happens when the battle feature opens is that from hey, you can battle now, but there's only pre-made decks that you currently can play with. And you can unlock those as you go along by also collecting, but also battling with those pre-made decks and unlock other pre-made decks. But as you go along and you play and you unlock and you get more stuff, eventually you can make your own decks. And it is just a building option. You can go for your entire decks, select the cards that you want to use. There's also an auto feature that allows you to select one of the cards that you really want to your deck and the rest be populated automatically. It's all really possible to create your own possibilities within TCG Pocket. Obviously, with one set, there's only like a stretch of stuff that you currently can do.
Yeah.
But if you want specific parts or want to throw specific cards in, you should be able to once you unlock enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, sort of hold people in at first and like let them go after they got a bit more experience. So in TCG Pocket, there's now something called immersive cards. What are those?
So I'm only allowed to talk about 2 cards, and one of them was very publicly shown off in many of the trailers and many of the footage, which is the Pikachu one. So immersive cards is sort of their way of making something something more digital, more tangible, because obviously with this not being physical cards, you're just looking at them, it's like, okay, yeah, it looks nice, I suppose. What they're doing here is that they have special art cards where you dive into the artwork and get like a bunch of 3D pictures that you can move around a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like the artist that then creatures like assigns to a certain card can create a bigger art piece than ever done before on the card, and basically can create multiple set pieces until you then slowly move back out of the card. So it's really cool. I think it's really well done. I think for a mobile device it makes sense that you show a bit more of what an artist can basically do, and I kind of look forward to seeing multiple artists like making those types of immersive cards, because it makes it also interesting to collect, because you really want to go for them and really want to see them even if they are super rare. So ultimately, in a sense, it also encourages more spending, which I think they really want you to do, I suppose.
Wow, it's a unique advantage to digital cards. I remember, I thought it was this. I saw it in the trailer. Now, is this like a 2D layers or is it actually 3D?
It's 2D layers, yeah, for sure. It's like a pop-up book picture, basically.
Yeah, you could do neat parallax effects and stuff with that. Like, I'm all for something different along that lines.
For sure.
Now, Don, we finally get to that issue we were touching on earlier. You know, well, what do you think, Don? What do you think of the monetization in this game?
So there are two premium monetization features. The first is called Pokemon Gold, Poke Gold, which in principle, so it does allow you to basically open more booster packs, but in principle, their main focus is reducing the timer of your 2 free booster packs a day. So if you use one Poke Gold, it decreases the timer by an hour. That's basically the initial pitch. But if you have a bunch of Poke Gold and then spend them all at once, you can maybe open 10 booster packs all at the same time. And I think that's where they get you. Like, if people really want to go into meat and potatoes and collect and play the game, they're gonna spend a bunch of Poke Gold, because obviously they will have offers on day one for different bundles and what have you. And then you spend your Poke Gold, unlock a bunch of cards directly, and have the initial gameplay experience already available to you, right?
Yeah.
That's what they hope people will do. And then in addition to that, in addition to like the premium currency, there's also a premium pass, which gets you... it reduces the timer of each booster pack you get to 8 hours, so you get an additional free pack per day. So instead of 2, you get 3. And there's also like a bunch of premium missions and rewards that you can only get by getting the premium pass. So it's... yeah, it's there. I don't think it's as egregious as I thought it would be, because for 99 cents is 5 Poke Gold, which is not ultimately the worst thing in the world, especially if you maybe just go for the premium pass and have for a month length like 3 packs a day.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I don't think it's the worst thing in the universe. I do think that you will be inclined to spend a bit more if you want to go to the meat and potatoes in the game, and that's why I think maybe Poke Gold is a bit egregious.
Yeah, I guess compared to the price of actual cards, it's less, but
yes,
you can add up. It doesn't sound too terrible to me, but it's always that tempting to like, how long can I play this game for free for?
Mean, the only thing that we need to take also in consideration is that booster packs in this game are 5 cards instead of the usual 10 or 11 in an actual physical pack.
Yes.
But that's why they're also likely less expensive.
Yeah. Oh well, does it? Yeah, it's not terrible, but yeah,
there's also a bunch of in-game currency, like 4 different types. They have a bunch of them for completing certain missions or doing certain tasks in the game. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can go with this.
God, that's good then. So, in addition to booster packs, though, to get cards, are there any other ways to get cards? Yeah.
So every, I would say, 24 hours, you get options from another person that you interacted with through your friends list or through online, and then you get access to what's called Wonder Picks. So basically, you can spend specific Wonder Picks stamina, and then you get one of the cards that one of your friends pulled, or maybe a special accessory or special item like playmats, binders, card sleeves, that sort of stuff. And then obtain additional stuff that way in addition to the missions and the premium currency. I would say that where it becomes kind of funny is that there are premium items for this, which are mostly designed for you to get older cards back that were previously in your rotation for Wonder Picks.
Yeah.
So there is a set schedule where you can use the current Wonder Picks and get the cards that you really want to have, or cards that you currently are seeing. But if you miss those, you will have to make sure that you get like a premium item to ensure that you can basically pull back the curtain and then get those cards that you saw previously but couldn't get at the time.
Yeah.
So there is other ways to get cards, and there's also like mission stuff. There's also additional way to get accessories through the in-game currency, through the missions. But yeah, there are ways that they will get you with Pokégold, especially with some of the more premium accessories and stuff.
Yeah.
But once again, I don't think it's as egregious as other games so forth. Maybe fortunate for some, but it is interesting. It's a wait and see approach for them. I feel like it, because they even stated that with this stuff that they are currently ensuring that there is parity between normal cards and cards they only put there behind the premium borders. But obviously that could change in the future. We don't know that. And I wonder how this will develop over time with a set of A2 or a set A3, how they see it then in comparison to now.
Yeah, they can always change the balance in the future, but
yes,
I'm gonna call Wonder Picks like Team Rocket mode.
I mean, you don't steal the card; you just get a copy of the card.
Darn
sure.
it. But with all these sort of, we're talking about balancing the game stuff. Like, are there customization options to make the experience your own?
So yeah, I mentioned it a little bit. There are binders.
Yeah.
And there are card sleeves and playmats. Those are already ways to make the game a bit more your own by getting them through the premium pass, through missions, that sort of stuff, or getting them with Pokégold. There's also, like, obviously there's also our trainer customization options that you can get. Where you make your own trainer there. The amount of options you get initially is not that huge, but might be something where they add more over time, or there are items to get in that particular sense. But you make your own trainer, you boot up the game, and then you start playing. And eventually, when you get into it, then you are more likely to get more into the customization options, I imagine. There are a few I saw. The most stuff that I seen during the preview was mostly like Eevee related stuff, which is good because I like Eevee. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. So it's good to see that there early on in the game. But I want to know what they're kind of doing in shifting gears a little bit and making sure that people keep engaged with the game long term. Yeah, that's a wait and see approach in this particular case.
Well done. Obviously, Pokemon Company is huge, not going away anywhere anytime soon.
Yes.
So for this game, though, do you think it's going to last a long time, or do you think it's going to lose steam, or do you think like Pokemon Company is really going to be pushing this?
I hope it doesn't lose steam. Like, particularly, I don't hope so, and I can imagine that it will. Because, like, for them to put this much faith into creatures and making sure that they can make a game that is profound and similar to the TCG as this, because they have not done this really before. Like, all of the trading card games, related games that were made in the past, were never made by creatures. They were made by other people, like mostly Western developers even, in fact. This is the first time that creatures themselves is like, we're putting our head into the ring and see where this goes. And ultimately, where I hope this will lead, is that they get confident enough to continue supporting this game long term and continue adding sets, because obviously this will be on a cycle. This is not going to be, oh, this is out and a new set is coming out in like a month.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think so. It could be, who knows? Like, they could just do very small sets and just make the first one the big one, right? But ultimately, I do think that they want to stretch this more over time and making sure that it has more value over time. And I'm not sure what the schedule of a digital card game in that particular sense would look like. But I would hope that if they like update it like majorly for 2 months and then do smaller updates in between, they would be mostly and broadly fine.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to tell now, particularly at this point in time, how confident they are in that solution and how much they really want to show for it. Because obviously, if they want to make a digital card game like this, it's not like they can just release it and sit on their laurels. They have to work for it. And I hope that they put the work in to make something that's brand new, that's never really been done in the history of TCG, because once again, all the Western versions are based on the regular card game that already existed. That they put the effort in to make this look good and make this look acceptable for the audience that is going to lean into it, because it's not going to like fully go into the segment that already plays TCG. It's going to be a broader audience, and they need to keep being engaged, not just continuing a month later, but maybe 6 months or a year down the line. And I'm not sure what that looks like, but I'm hopeful. I think the first steps that they're taking here look really interesting. And it just depends where they take it. That's ultimately where it really comes down to.
Yeah, I guess, like, they can't overwhelm you in a preview. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to do in the future.
Yes.
And, like, they need time to maybe adjust on the fly as they're going along and see how people are reacting to the game. So. For
sure.
No, thank you, Don, for this detailed preview of Pokemon TCG Pocket. So it's coming out on October 30th, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
So stay tuned for it. You know, a game like this is great, really, because, like, considering Japan, everyone's just on their phone on trains and stuff. Like, nobody has a Switch anymore. They need options like this. So until then, thank you so much, Don. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay tuned for more on Pokemon and whatnot from us in the future. Bye, everybody.
Bye.